Tonight, tempo of political campaigns rises. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi storms Niger state, pledges to birth a new Nigeria by ending poverty, unemployment and security challenges facing the country. PDP presidential candidate Atiku slams ruling APC over what he describes as its failure to fulfill its promises to Nigerians, vows to change the narrative during a rally in Oyo State. An APC presidential candidate, Senator Bola Tinubu, gives assurances of his plan to tackle insecurity through massive employment if elected, as he engages party stakeholders in a consultative session at the nation's capital.
On business news tonight, African Development Bank forecast continent's economic growth to outpace global forecast by this year and 2024.
On sports news tonight, Rafa Nadal announces he will be out for up to 8 weeks after suffering a left hip injury during his shock second-round exit from the Australian Open.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, the Central Bank of Nigeria accuses banks of sabotaging its efforts to ensure the circulation of the new Naira notes across the country.
And in international news from London, Jacinda Ardern has announced she will quit as the New Zealand Prime Minister ahead of this year's election, saying she no longer has enough in the tank to lead.
The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Bola Tinubu, is again assuring Nigerians of improved security and employment if elected president of Nigeria on February the 25th. Speaking at a stakeholders consultative session in Abuja, the nation's capital, Senator Tinubu says the provision of employment opportunities will greatly reduce the security challenges bedeviling Nigeria as a nation. He also gave his commitment to improving the state of infrastructure as well as tackling corruption.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you all for your presence.
It is an engagement between the Federation of Construction Industry and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Bola Tinubu, as they brainstorm on some industry issues.
Okay, sir. It's in our heart. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
The infrastructure deficit in the country is the point of conversation here, and the delegation, which was led by the Minister of Works and Housing, did not hold back concerns about the state of infrastructure in the country.
The budget that this government inherited in 2015 for works for the whole of Nigeria was 18.132 billion. Please just note that number, 18.132 billion. That's for the whole of Nigeria's roads. So, but we believe and we know that infrastructure is the backbone of the economy. Without it, you have no economy.
The construction industry, however, is struggling under the challenges presented by COVID-19 pandemic, increase in inflation, high cost of energy, scarcity and fluctuation of foreign exchange, and the global economy. The industry is also bedeviled with outstanding debts and interest rates accrued therefrom.
Security is a major issue for the presidential candidate of the APC, as he assures Nigerians that there will be an improvement if he wins the election.
If we fail to invest in the future of those children, and we take ours away to foreign countries to get better education, you neglect the children of the poor. The consequences is what we are saying now, asking for security. They become threats to your own investment.
He also reels out his agenda for the country.
End to corruption. Without a vacuum cleaner, we are doing it gradually. We don't want to scare the investors of today and that of the future.
As Senator Tinubu canvasses for votes with his message of renewed hope, He remains optimistic about victory in the presidential election.
Trust me to birth a new Nigeria. Well, those are the words of a Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, while campaigning in Niger State, north-central Nigeria today. Well, he pledged to do so by tackling poverty, unemployment and security challenges bedeviling the country. Speaking to a crowd of supporters in Minna, the state capital, the former Anambra State Governor, in company of his running mate Dati Baba Ahmed and other party leaders, reiterated his mantra to move Nigeria from consumption to production if elected president.
For 24 years, all Nigeria has done is to produce poverty, to produce hunger, out-of-school children, misery, and our people being sick. That is what we want to turn around. We're promising you that Niger State will be secured. We will fight insecurity. I just told you the first step of government. And I'm telling you, without security, you cannot do anything. We will fight security. The enemy is not more formidable. The criminals are not more formidable than government. It is because we don't have leadership. We don't have coordination. We will have government this time. Daddy and I will be in charge. You will not find us wanting. We assure you that we will come to Niger State. We will not remain in Abuja. The airport here, you know how the airport in Niger was constructed? It was meant to be an offshoot of Abuja Airport. Today is dead. We will use here to show that Nigeria can feed itself.
Well, more campaigns, this time at the governorship level, as Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State is promising to do more for the people of the Katagum region, especially in the areas of infrastructure development, if he's re-elected for a second term. Well, he made the commitment when he took his campaign to Itas, Gadao, Shira and Jamari local government areas in the state. Our correspondent, Hajar Ali, reports.
Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has advanced to more local government areas in the Katagum zone to solicit for votes. On his way to Itas, he stopped by to inspect one of his ongoing projects, a 25-kilometer road linking Gadao to Itas in a very difficult terrain. In Itas Gadao, the campaign train is received by the people as they were urged to vote for the ruling party in the state.
There
is nothing the PDP has not done for Itas. Every developmental project you see in Itas was brought by the PDP. Bauchi people are known to have the mind of their own, and that was how Governor Mohammed was brought into power. We are calling on you to vote for your son again for a second term, and all other PDP candidates.
The campaign train also stopped in Jama'ari local government area, highlighting some of the efforts by the administration to improve the infrastructure in the area. When the team got to Shira local government area, the governor leads the campaign team to the district head of Bailey, a 110-year-old man who has been on the throne for 90 years. He gives the governor his blessings as Governor Mohammed promises to construct the road to the community if re-elected. And then they proceed through the venue in Yana.
We will not allow our people to suffer. We ensure that we create jobs for you.
The campaign train is hoping to cover the remaining 2 local government areas in the northern part of the state before proceeding to other zones. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Kogi State chapter of the All Progressives Congress APC is dismissing the chances of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP. Addressing a news conference in Lokoja, the state capital, the Director of Media and Publicity of the APC Campaign Council in the state, Mr. Kingsley Fawo, described the PDP Presidential Campaign Council in the state as an assemblage of expired politicians. But in his reaction, the head of media and publicity for the Kogi State PDP presidential campaign, Mr. Austin Ochu, described the comment as laughable.
Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, hosted the People's Democratic Party presidential campaign train on Saturday, January the 14th, 2023.
Please do bye-bye to IPC, bye-bye to IPC.
At the Conference Stadium, venue of the rally, the PDP claims that over 148,000 members of the APC defected during the rally. The party also claimed that almost all the projects in the state since the return of democracy in 1999 were executed by the previous administrations of the People's Democratic Party. These views did not go down well with the Kogi State chapter of the All Progressives Congress, who used the press conference to state their position on the issue.
It rolled out expired individuals who had been expunged from the ranks of the APC for their unsavory deeds and characters and proceeded to canonize them. The rally turned into a farce when people like the former Deputy Governor of the state, Elder Simon Achuba, and the former Speaker of the State Assembly, Right Honorable Alpha Imam, were repackaged for Atiku as Kogi APC stalwarts, who were decamping to the PDP at the rally.
However, the PDP in the state believes the APC has not done enough to win the 2023 presidential election.
Just 24 hours after that rally, about 165 persons defected from a ward, Idoji, in Okene local government area. Same for Ajaokuta. The reverberation is going on everywhere now.
Kogi State will not be participating in the 2023 governorship election. Nevertheless, the APC and the PDP are confident of winning the presidential election in the state, which is expected to impact on the outcome of the governorship election later in the year.
The Oyo State Governor, Makinde, continues his consultations and campaign activities as he moves across local governments in the state. So this time he took his campaign tour to Lagelu local government area, where he declared that his administration will localize industries there if re-elected. While addressing the Traditional Council of Local Government in Lalupon, Governor Makinde berated how notable industries have gone moribund in the local government area, saying that his government will see to the revitalization of industries.
The turnout has been really very impressive. Basically, we've been telling them that under Omitutu 1.0, we've been able to achieve quite a lot. We brought out our roadmap for accelerated development, and we have been able to achieve a lot on that roadmap. And for Omitutu 2.0, we're promising them that things can only get better. Because whatever we've solved, they've been solved, and we'll move on to other things.
Part 2, after the break, Appeal Court upholds the election of Umo Eno as the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate for the March 11th poll in Akwa Ibom State. But that's in a moment. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. The tempo of political campaigns rises. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi storms Niger State, pledges to birth a new Nigeria by ending poverty, unemployment and security challenges facing the country. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar slams ruling APC over what he describes as its failure to fulfill its promises to Nigerians, vows to change the narrative during a rally in Oyo State. Well, the Court of Appeal Abuja has affirmed the nomination of Mr. Akan as the Akwa Ibom State governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress. In a unanimous decision, the appellate court set aside the judgment of Justice Agatha Okeke of the Federal High Court, Uyo, which had nullified the May 26, 2022 APC primary, wherein Mr. Odofia emerged winner. In another case, the court upheld the judgment of Justice Okeke, which dismissed the suit filed by Mr. Okun, challenging the election of Mr. Umaino as a candidate of the People's Democratic Party.
The Court of Appeal Abuja Division is partially full with lawyers and indigents of Akwa Ibom State who are here for the appeals on the state governorship tickets of the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party. First, the three-man panel of justices of the appellate court set aside the judgment of Justice Agatha Okeke of the Federal High Court, Uyo, which had nullified the governorship primary of the All Progressives Congress held on May 26, 2022. The exercise produced Mr. Akan Odofia as the flag bearer of the party for the state governorship election. The panel explains that the lower court erred in assuming jurisdiction contrary to sections 97 and 98 of the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act.
Gladdens our heart because before now there has been great uncertainty in the party as to who is the governorship candidate in Akwa Ibom State. This judgment rendered at about 6 o'clock today, the 19th day of January 2023, has settled the point. Akan Odofia is the lawful, legitimate, valid candidate of the All Progressive Congress in Akwa Ibom State.
The same panel also sat on the appeal filed by Mr. Akan Okon to determine who should be the Akwa Ibom State governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Mr. Okon is alleging that Mr. Omo Eno forged the WAEC certificate that was submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission. However, the panel led by Justice Elfreda William Daudu upheld the judgment of the lower court.
A reaction is that justice has been done. That essentially is what that is about. Justice has been done. In regard to our own case, the groundwork was really done at the lower courts. And I think that groundwork paid very, very well because the cross-examination and everything, that's what the courts considered and came to its conclusion. And justice has been done.
By these judgments, the coast is clear for Mr. Akan Odofia and Mr. Omo Eno to contest the governorship election in Akwa Ibom State unless their opponents choose to contest the judgments at the Supreme Court.
Well, away from the courts, there was a disturbance at the All Progressives Congress rally earlier today at the Rumoji Playground in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, as some explosions were reported during the gathering at the Ojukwu Town Hall. Well, the Publicity Secretary of the APC in the state, Mr. Darlington Waju, claims it was a bomb and that 5 people were injured, an incident he described as underhand strategies to frustrate the party's campaigns in the state. But in a swift reaction, the River State Police Command debunked the narrative from the APC, saying there was no explosion before or during the rally. The Public Relations Officer of the command, Grace Iringekoko, instead says there was a fracas between members of the community over how to share the money paid to them for renting the playground. But she pointed out that it had nothing to do with the APC nor their rally. She also says the Commissioner of Police has directed the DC State CID and the OC Bomb Disposal Unit to investigate and confirm the veracity of the claims. Well, let's now head over to our Abuja studio where Terry Kumi is sitting by with more stories on the news at 10. Hello, Terry. It's all yours now.
Hello, Kayode. Now let's begin with this one. The Central Bank of Nigeria is accusing banks of sabotaging its efforts to effectively circulate the new Naira notes across the country. A director at the bank, Mr. Abubakar Kure, who led a team from the Apex Bank to some commercial banks in the FCT to check the level of compliance, revealed plans by the CBN to meet with top executives of the banks to fashion out modalities on how to address the challenge. Officials of the bank also took the campaign for the acceptance of the new Naira note to traditional and religious leaders in the FCT.
Officials of the Central Bank of Nigeria arrived at the palace of the Honor of Abaji in the nation's capital. The bank wants to secure the buy-in of the traditional ruler in its sensitization drive for the new bank notes.
We are here to sensitize the public using the channel of traditional rulers. We believe, as the chairman of the Council of Chiefs in the FCT, you have the tool to also send the message around all your chiefs, all your followers, all the people in the FCT constituency, especially those in the rural areas who may not be able to have the messages, so that they can have the message and pull their money back to the bank. And once they do that, they can always use their money the way they want, using all the infrastructure.
And then the train moves to the Al-Nur Mosque, where Islamic scholars pledge to support the banks in the areas of sensitization for the new Naira notes.
I thank you for the drive, to try to do this sensitization and also the buy-in of the religious leaders. We will do our best, to inform our followers and let them know that, there is a positive thing that is coming out of this initiatives. And it is a government initiative. Government initiatives, policies like this, they're not just coming from the blue. They are coming as a result of detailed thinking and analysis and research, to ensure that there are things that are more positive than they are more negative.
The central bank had fixed January 13 as a deadline for banks to dispense only new notes from automated teller machines. While some of the machines are dispensing the new notes, others are still dispensing old notes. The outcome of the checks in the machines did not encourage bank officials.
We have gotten some information. We're going to analyze it and take necessary action for correction. It may even involve calling the MD of banks to ask them why are they still disbursing all currency when Central has enough buffer stock for them to take up. Possibly, maybe they didn't take up. Possibly, there are diversions, we don't know. But we already gotten data about what each bank collected from CBN.
The central bank insists that the Naira redesign is in the interest of a nation and should be supported by all Nigerians.
Governor, you are welcome back. Please sit down.
Those were the words of President Muhammad Buhari to the Central Bank Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, at the State House, in the bank chief's first official public appearance since he left the country on his annual vacation in December. The CBN Governor was part of a delegation of the Arab Bank for Economic Development led by its Director General, Dr. Sidi Ould Tah, to the presidential villa. President Buhari received Mr. Emefiele with the words, "You are welcome back," amidst speculations of him facing arrest by the Department of State Services. Mr. Emefiele, however, did not speak with journalists after the meeting. But hours after the meeting, the CBN Governor was again spotted at the villa, but the purpose of his second appearance was not revealed. The DSS had approached the Federal High Court in Abuja seeking an order to arrest Mr. Emefiele over alleged acts of terrorism financing, fraudulent activities and economic crimes of national security dimension. But the court declined the motion, stating that there was no evidence to back the allegation. To some more court stories now, the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, is asking the Court of Appeal in Abuja to set aside an order of Federal High Court compelling his appearance in a $53 million judgment debt proceedings. Justice Inyang-Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, had summoned him on October the 20th last year following an application for garnishi made by a senior advocate of Nigeria, Joe Agi. The court had granted the application and ordered Mr. Emefiele to appear in court, but the summons was adjourned till March the 20th with no reason given for the decision. The dispute stemmed from an alleged $70 million judgment against Linus International Limited for the lawyer Joe Agi's assistance with the Paris Club refund. Mr. Emefiele was said to have only released $17 million, leaving an unpaid balance of $53 million. In another legal matter, a former head of service of the Federation, Mr. Stephen Orosanye, will on April the 5th know his fate as the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed the date for judgment in a 27-count fraud charge brought against him by the federal government. Justice Iyangekwo fixed the date after the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Orosanye and others adopted their final addresses for and against the case, while adopting his final brief of arguments through his counsel, Mr. Ade Okanya Ines, SAN. The former head of service asked the court to dismiss the entire charges against him on the grounds of lack of evidence and merit. However, counsel to the EFCC, Mr. Oluwaleki Atolagbe, prayed the court to convict the defendants based on the evidence adduced by 21 witnesses who testified in the matter. Mr. Orosanye was arraigned alongside the managing director of Frederick Hamilton Global Services Limited, Mr. Sarenko Afe, on a 49-count charge, but later reduced to 22. Meanwhile, Justice Ekwo has struck out a suit instituted against the president, challenging alleged lopsidedness in appointments into the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. The suit instituted by an Abuja-based businesswoman and Niger Delta leader, Chief Rita Lori Ogbegbo, was struck out by the court on the grounds that the plaintiff has no legal right to have instituted the case. Delivering judgment, Justice Ekwo held that Section 2 of the NDDC Act was specific that any legal action or any infraction in matters relating to NDDC can only be instituted by corporate persons and not individuals. The plaintiff had prayed for an order compelling Buhari to appoint an Ishakiri indigene from oil-producing areas of Delta State as the managing director of the NDDC. And while Chief Ogbegbo says she will be appealing the judgment. Now, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, says his administration will tackle the security challenges in the country. He stated this during his campaign in Ibadan, the Oyo state capital, where he laments that the ruling All Progressives Congress has failed to keep every commitment it made to Nigerians prior to 2015. The campaign was attended by prominent Nigerians, politicians in the state, except for Governor Makinde, who was absent. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, alongside his campaign team, is received at the Ibadan airport by some prominent members of the party in Oyo State, with the exception of Governor Makinde. From the airport, the team moves to the palace of the Olubadan of Ibadan, His Royal Highness Oba Olalekan Balogun, where Mr. Abubakar intimates the traditional leader and the council members of his plans for Nigeria. The campaign train moves from there for the rally. The road leading to Makbo, the venue of the campaign, is flooded by a sea of supporters mobilized from various parts of the brown-roofed city. At the venue, some residents in the state, including this 73-year-old woman, expressed their desire to have Mr. Abubakar as president of Nigeria.
This is the president we have been waiting for. All people of your state, we are ready to vote for him.
I'm expecting Atiku Okowa to enter for president 2023. And I know that he will do us good.
We are ushering in a president that the masses love.
The arrival of Mr. Abubakar sets the ball rolling for the rally, which has a retinue of PDP officials from the national and state levels. The excitement here is palpable as the campaign team, including the wife of the PDP presidential candidate, Mrs. Titi Abubakar, dance to local musical interlude. Governor Makinde of Oyo State is absent at the campaign. However, the PDP leadership and the campaign council commend him for providing an enabling environment for the campaign.
I am happy you are here under the full mobilization of the governor of Oyo State, my younger brother Makinde, who is a strong PDP member. is a member of the family. And in the family, sometimes you have disagreements. Sometimes you have people who are not happy. I, as the father of the PDP in Nigeria, I'm calling all our aggrieved members to come back home.
We must use our PDCs to show the APC that we are not happy with what they've done with Nigeria in the last 8 years.
The PDP presidential candidate then mounts the stage, leaving no one in doubt of his excitement. He assures of an even development in the country if he is elected president.
In our economic program, we are committed to making sure that the industrialization of the Southwest is achieved and has the support of the federal government. This is a commitment. So there are 5 major commitments we made to the people of this country. The unity, we must make sure that there is inclusion. Every part of this country will be represented in our government, not like what the APC government is doing.
After the campaign, Mr. Abubakar also held town hall meetings with various groups in Ibadan. Oyo State is the last in the southwest region to host Mr. Abubakar's campaign, and with the reception received by the PDP presidential candidate, he's optimistic of winning the region come February 25. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. Back to you, Coyote.
Well, great, Terry. Away from politics now to the South-South region, where the executive management of the Niger Delta Development Commission has promised to explore alternative funding mechanisms to generate more money to develop the region. According to the managing director of the commission, Dr. Samuel Ogbuku, this has become necessary due to the financial challenges occasioned by the economic crunch. Dr. Ogbuku was speaking at the inauguration of a public-private partnership committee to source funds to finance legacy projects in the region.
The managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, Dr. Samuel Ogbuku, joins other members of the executive management of the commission. The reason for the gathering is to inaugurate a committee meant to generate funding for the commission through a public-private partnership. Among the terms of reference for the committee is to seek support from local and international agencies with the aim of developing the region using resources other than what is provided by the federal government.
We're sitting up to ensure that we explore other means of development. We don't only want to depend on the federal allocation of NDDC to develop the region. We're open to partnership. There are projects that we alone can probably not carry out. The road from Warri to Escravos needs partnership. We're looking at you as a team to bring us partnership that will bring about legacy projects.
The committee's job takes an immediate effect.
In terms of reference of the committee, is to identify, process, secure partnerships for development of the commission. In line with the Establishment Act, also to identify, pursue, and secure alternative sources of funding for the commission's projects and programs. To draw up and adopt projects and programs funding templates. To create and maintain development partners registers.
The new committee is headed by the immediate past acting managing director of the commission, Emmanuel Audu Owaburu. He promises to hit the ground running.
The terms of reference are quite clear to us, and it has been our collective dream to have the entire Niger Delta region linked by not just roads, but even railway lines. We promise we will do everything within our power not to fail this.
The committee is expected to review all the commission's existing partnerships as well as explore new ones.
And it's a cheery projection for Africa's economy. And Audu has this story and more from the world of business.
Indeed.
indeed, Kayode. Thank you. But Africa is set to outperform the rest of the world in its economic growth over the next 2 years. That's according to the latest report coming from the African Development Bank. At the launch of its first edition of the Macroeconomic Performance and Outlook Report for Africa today in Abidjan, the AFDB projected the continent's real GDP at an average of around 4% for this year and in 2024. And this is higher than projected global averages of 2.7% and 3.2%. Meanwhile, the AFDB's president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says the release of the new report is coming at a time when African economies have faced significant headwinds, while providing their resilience. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council has started the shipment of agro-commodities to the country's export trade house in China. The executive director and chief executive officer of NEPC, Dr. Ezra Yakusak, who made this known to journalists today in Abuja, says the agricultural products include ginger, sesame seed, and cashew nuts, among other things. He explains that the adoption of export trade house is expected to further drive the country's non-oil export and increase its market share. Nigeria's bilateral trade volume with China is currently worth $26 billion. The federal government has given approval to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to help raise the official retail price of premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, from 165 to 185 naira per litre. The newly approved pump price, which was communicated in the memo to major marketers earlier today, is coming after weeks of petrol scarcity across the country, which has led to long queues in fuel stations since late November last year. Meanwhile, reports by some motorists indicate that many fuel stations are selling the product above 200 naira per litre in Lagos and other parts of the country. An official announcement is expected anytime soon. Meanwhile, Financial Derivatives Company has reacted to the federal government's promise to cut its debit servicing to revenue ratio from 80% in the year 2022 to 60% this year. The CEO of the economic think tank, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, believes this might be a Herculean task.
I think that she's setting the tone, she's saying the right things, and not to get creditors worried about it. I know for sure that Nigeria is not going to default on its debt. I know that it's a tall order to issue 40-year paper for 9% per annum with a 3-year moratorium. I don't think those things will fly. The reality is the market will determine what the real price of our debt is, and the market will determine where we go. But if the productivity and the growth increases, then naturally your revenue will increase, and your debt service as a percentage of your revenue will actually decline. So it is wishful thinking, but it's also possible. And it will be done as long as you can make sure that you achieve growth rates in excess of 3, 4, 5%, which is possible and doable in the near future.
Now let's head to the market with a total of 6 billion naira added to the total value of listed equities today. The market ended today's trading session on a positive note with a slight rebound in overall index performance. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, choppy is the theme of this week's trade so far. One day it's up, the next day it's down. Taking advantage of the dip from Wednesday, investors' buy interest determined the sentiments of the market at the close of trade. That's why we saw the all-share index recover, even though slightly, 0.02%, but still in the green, and the market cap still within that 28 trillion naira. And of course, this attracted the bull. Well, the sectoral performance reveals the drivers of this recovery to be banking, led by Access Co. There you see 0.20%. Access Co gained 5 kobo. So it countered the drop in share price of Zenith, GTCO, and UBA. Powerful Access Co. Then we have consumer goods. It ended in the red. There's 0.03%. And that's because of international breweries. It showed about 25 kobo from its share price and drove that counter in the red. We still have insurance there, doing good there. But, you know, not much of a market mover. So who is the market mover for today? The market mover is Lafarge, there you see it. After adding 39.9 million naira to the total market share at the close of Thursday's trade, Lafarge drove the market to the grain side. Hope it stays that way by tomorrow. That's a stock market report. Amini John Mekwa is back to you.
And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. It's back to you, Coyote.
Well, thank you, Anne. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Wole Olanipekun, is calling on government at all levels to upgrade facilities at the nation's courts, most of which he described as dilapidated. The legal luminary stated this at the commissioning of a court complex, which he donated to the Ekiti State Judiciary in Ikere-Ekiti. Well, he said it is demoralizing to behold courtrooms in appalling conditions, as it is commonplace in the country.
Ikere-Ekiti in Ekiti State, southwest Nigeria, the hometown of legal luminary Wole Olanipekun, plays host to various personalities in the legal profession, top political figures and royal fathers, among others.
Ajero of Ijero-Ekiti, you're welcome. Atao Vayede, you're welcome. Kabiesi. Obalio of Erimope, you're welcome.
All here to be part of the historic commissioning of the ultra-modern High Court complex donated by Mr. Wole Olanipekun, SAN.
Thank you very much.
The Chief Judge of Ekiti State describes the gift as trailblazing, highlighting the place of the private sector in complementing government efforts.
In the 26-year history of Ekiti State Judiciary, this is the first time that an individual will be constructing and donating a purpose-built building to this arm of government. It is indeed a major watershed in the process of infrastructural development of Ekiti State Judiciary.
Others who take the stage recall the plight of lawyers and judges before this gifted edifice.
Ikere-Ekiti branch was established on the 22nd June 2012, and the creation of this branch was made possible by the efforts, singular efforts, of our grand patron, Chief Wole Olanipekun, CFR, SAN.
The donor, Wole Olanipekun, believes giving is the essence of living, saying it is imperative to also remember and honor distinguished jurists.
A candle becomes more beautiful when it lights on other candles. The room becomes brighter. And all of them show forth the glory of God. That's the essence of our living. No one is ever remembered for his primitive accumulative tendencies. But you are ever remembered for what you live and bequeath to humanity. That is my principle of life.
The governor of Ekiti State is impressed by the philanthropy of Mr. Olanipekun. He promises to work on improving the welfare of the judiciary.
In the name of the Holy Spirit. I have known Chief Wole Olanipekun for quite a while in Ekiti. Aside Are Afe Babalola, I'm here to find a man who finds satisfaction in giving back to his place of birth as he does. His signature act of kindness can be found in every aspect of his life in Ikere-Ekiti. I'm aware of his immense role to the transformation of the then College of Education, he has spoken about that, Ikere-Ekiti, to Bamidele University of Science and Technology.
The structure houses 2 courtrooms, judges' chambers, a modern library named after another legal icon, Chief Afe Babalola, offices and holding cells, among others.
More stories now. The Director General of the Nigeria Mining Cadastre Office, Mr. Obadiah Nkom, says the agency generated 14.59 billion naira between 2018 and 2022, which has been remitted to the Treasury single account. He stated this at the State House ministerial briefing today, where he explains that the bulk of the agency's revenue is derived from applications, processing and annual service fees, which constitute 50% of the annual revenue generated from the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. According to him, the agency has recorded about 6,000 license holders, while from September 2021 to date, the agency revoked 3,400 titles, with warning that it will revoke more in this year from those who do not comply with the provisions of the Act.
can tell you without mincing words that subsequently we are going to have a very good increase, because even as at then, we tend to form over 50% or about 50% of the revenue of the mining sector. And irrespective of that, what are the components, what are the things that we use to receive? In fact, in our revenue generation, it's nothing but application fees. Application fees, processing fees, and then annual service fee, which one can call it like ground rent in other places. We are not in charge of activity, which is revenue, royalties, and so on and so forth. So even with this little aspects of revenue components, we still want to ensure that at the end of the day, our revenue increase and will play the key role to be able to add to the development of Nigeria and increase the well-being.
Well, outside Nigeria now, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says she's quitting office ahead of this year's election as she no longer has enough in the tank to lead. But the announcement comes as speculations indicate that her Labour Party may face a very difficult path to re-election on October the 14th. Well, here's Simon Puser with more on this and other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Jacinda Ardern has announced she will quit as New Zealand Prime Minister ahead of this year's election, saying she no longer has enough in the tank to lead.
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election, and that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February.
Ms Ardern choked up as she detailed how 6 challenging years in the job had taken a toll. Labour Party MPs will vote to find her replacement on Sunday.
I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice.
The shock announcement comes as polling indicates the party faces a difficult path to re-election on the 14th of October. After her brief speech, she was greeted by her husband. Before being cheered by colleagues and ministers. Ms Ardern will step down by the 7th of February.
I am by no means the first woman to multitask.
She became the youngest female head of government in the world when she was elected Prime Minister in 2017, aged just 37.
Jacinda has done an incredible job for New Zealand. She's positioned us internationally. She's led us through significant crises in New Zealand. She's got a major economic and social policy legacy. It's a sad day for me to see her go.
Multiple reports suggest Germany will only send battle tanks to Ukraine if the United States does the same. Chancellor Olaf Scholz is under increasing international and domestic pressure to supply German-built Leopard 2 tanks, or at least approve their delivery by third countries. Poland and Finland have both promised to send their Leopards, but need Germany's permission to do so. But Berlin is still in talks with the US about its official position. President Macron's reform programme faces a make-or-break moment as French unions stage a day of mass strikes and protests against his plans to push back the age of retirement. The biggest demonstration is in Paris, with the big unions marching from the Place de la République across the city. A new bill due to go through Parliament will raise the official age at which people can stop work from 62 to 64. Public transport has been badly hit and many schools are closed. Turnout was significant at some of the 200-plus protests across France. Meanwhile, thousands of Catalan separatists have protested ahead of the Spain-France summit in Barcelona and called for the independence of Catalan regions in both countries. Waving pro-independence Estelada flags and holding signs reading neither Spain nor France, they chanted separatist slogans ahead of the arrival of the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and French President Emmanuel Macron. Catalonia launched a failed independence bid in 2017, with the leader of the bid now in self-imposed exile in Belgium to avoid prosecution in Spain. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been made an honorary citizen of Kyiv by the city's mayor Vitaly Klitschko on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Mr. Mayor Vitaly. Thank you very much. That's my passport. Thank you very much.
Johnson was presented with the award by Klitschko in recognition of his vocal support for Ukraine following the invasion by Russian forces in February 2022, as well as Britain's supply of arms to Kyiv, most notably M270 multiple rocket launchers and thousands of NLAW anti-tank weapons, drones and munitions. And Chinese state media has kick-started celebrations for the upcoming Lunar New Year in familiar fashion by presenting 10 panda cubs at the Wolong Giant Panda Center in Sichuan province. 10 panda cubs and their breeders came out to deliver their Lunar New Year wishes. State broadcaster CCTV showed the group of cubs, all born in the year 2020, playing with Lunar New Year decorations and climbing trees. According to the World Wildlife Fund, about 1,800 pandas are left in the wild, with another 500 in zoos around the world. People across China are getting into a festive mood ahead of the Chinese Lunar New Year as they prepare rabbit-themed cookies, cakes and colourful activities to usher in the Year of the Rabbit. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Rafa Nadal has announced that he will be out for up to 8 weeks after suffering a left hip flexor injury during his shock second-round exit from the Australian Open. Nadal had an MRI scan on his left leg in Melbourne on Thursday under his doctor's supervision, which revealed a grade 2 injury in the muscle. The projected timeline puts his participation at the ATP 1000 Indian Wells and Miami events in March in doubt, which will see him plunge down the rankings. Nadal will more likely target being ready for the clay court season in mid-April, leading into the French Open in May, where he will be chasing a 15th Roland Garros title. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balu.
Well, thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Tempo of political campaigns rose today as Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi stormed Niger State, pledged to birth a new Nigeria by ending poverty, unemployment and security challenges facing the country. Also today, PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar slammed the ruling APC over what he described as its failure to fulfill its promises to Nigerians. He vowed to change the narrative during a rally in Oyo State. APC presidential candidate Senator Bola Tinubu today gave assurances of his plan to tackle insecurity through massive employment if elected, as he engaged party stakeholders in a consultative session in Abuja. And President Mohammed Buhari today received CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele at the State House amid reports of DSS investigations into allegations of terror financing. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Good night.